I had been graded D for as long as I had been graded, and the system had not yet noticed. The chain on my bicycle skipped twice on the climb up Mapo Bridge. I had been replacing that same chain for 2 years, knowing which links were going to fail next as intimately as I knew the potholes in Seoul's streets. The cold air bit into my fingers through the cut-off fingertips of my courier gloves. I hadn't bought new ones since winter had set in. Every half-week stipend mattered when you were living on Tier 4 rations. The sun was dipping below the horizon as I pedaled across the bridge, the packaging plant on the far side throwing a long industrial shadow over the river. The smell of it carried on the wind, chemicals and cardboard, and something sharper that caught in my throat. Mom was somewhere inside, working the night shift to supplement her Tier 5 rations. I hadn't seen her today or any day this week. My final delivery was a Tier 3 packaged dinner for one of the plant's night shift workers. I handed it off to the gate guard, who barely glanced at me and started back across the bridge. The simulator's public ticker scrolled in the corner of my vision, a constant companion since its arrival 2 years ago. Everyone had one now, even if we mostly ignored them. Tonight it showed the city's top scenarios, the names never changed, and my own status line at the bottom, Lee Joon-ho. Mean D Tier 4. By the time I reached the dry cleaner, the sun was almost gone. The neon sign above the door had been dark for as long as I could remember, but the old man who owned the building still lived in the back, behind a makeshift partition he'd put up when the business dried up. I chained my bicycle to the railing outside and started up the narrow staircase to my rental on the second floor. 4 flights, plus a kink where the wall met the old neon sign. The stairs creaked under me. I reached my door, slipped my key into the lock, and stepped inside. The simulator changed. The public ticker in the corner of my vision expanded. It grew from a thin, scrolling strip into a block of stacked text that filled the upper third of my field of view. I tried to blink it away. The block did not move. System escalation detected. Personal simulator activating. Operator Lee Joon-ho. Calibrating baseline performance metrics. Initial tier assignment D-class. Scenario 1 will begin in 60 seconds. I had watched 100 personal simulator boots on the public feeds. I had assumed mine was never going to come. The system had been assigning fewer and fewer of them since the first wave, and the unassigned tended to stay unassigned. I sat down on the edge of my mattress and watched the countdown tick. 59, 58, 57. I did not panic. I had spent 2 years not panicking about whether I would get one of these. There was no point starting now. The room felt the same as it always did, cold, narrow, the calendar on the wall 2 years out of date. I set my courier bag down beside the mattress. 30, 29, 28. I waited. The public ticker continued to scroll past the corner of the boot block, oblivious. Lee Joon-ho, mean, D Tier 4. I watched my own status line scroll past me like it belonged to someone else. 10, 9, 8. I took a breath. Scenario 1 begins. The walls of my rental dropped away. I was standing knee-deep in cold water. The air was thick with damp and the smell of rot. An abandoned subway station stretched out in front of me, half flooded, the overhead lights flickering on a broken circuit. Scenario 1, subterranean salvage. Objective, recover 3 sealed ration tins from the flooded platform. Time limit, 10 minutes. Grading, time, completeness method. Begin. I waded forward, testing each step before I committed my weight. The water was cold enough to make my legs ache inside 2 minutes. I ignored it. I needed the tins. The first one was wedged behind a turnstile, the metal of the tin dulled but the seal intact. I pulled it free and tucked it under my arm. Time remaining, 7:00. The second was half submerged at the platform's edge. I retrieved it just as a chunk of ceiling tile broke loose and dropped into the water beside me, sending a heavy ripple back across my chest. Time remaining, 4:30. The third was at the far end of the platform, jammed under a bench. By the time I reached it, the water was up to my chest. I grabbed it. I turned back. The water was higher than it had been a minute ago. The simulator had been raising the level the whole time and I had not noticed. I started back toward the platform. Time remaining, 1:45. I lost ground every meter. The water dragged. My boots filled. I kept the 3 tins clutched to my chest with one arm and used the other arm to pull along the wall. Time remaining, 0:30. I made the platform edge. I tried to haul myself up onto the concrete with 3 tins under my arm and a wet courier bag at my hip and my legs numb from the cold. The 3rd tin slipped out from under my arm in the climb and dropped back into the water. I watched it go. I did not go after it. Time expired. Recovery 2 of 3 tins. Method inefficient. The subway dissolved. My clothes were dry. I was standing in the middle of my rental, 2 tins gone from my arm as if I had never held them. My pulse was not dry. I sat down on the mattress. The debrief block appeared in my vision, stacked verbatim. Scenario 1 complete. Grade D. Weekly main D. Ration tier 4 unchanged. I looked at it for a moment without reading it. I had been graded D every time I had been graded. The D had stopped meaning anything 2 years before the system arrived. The system did not know that yet. Then another line appeared, below the debrief block, in a slightly different color, I thought, but I could not be sure. Overlay color was hard to read against the wall. Recurrence 1. I stared at it. I had watched 100 personal simulator boots on the public feeds. I had watched evaluators with their stats laid out for the cameras. I had never seen the word recurrence on anyone's overlay, not once. I opened the public ticker. I scrolled. The top tae-min evaluators, tae-min and the rest, had their stats listed for anyone to read. Grade, mean, tier, completion percentage, scenario count. No recurrence anywhere on any of them. I searched the public simulator help index for the word. No results. I searched for recurrent stat. No results. I searched for hidden modifier. No results. That is not a recognized classification. I sat on the mattress and looked at the line in my vision. Recurrence 1. It did not go away. Someone knocked on my door. I opened it. The old man was on the landing with a bowl of soup in both hands. He was thin in his cardigan and his slippers were worn thin at the heels. He did not ask if I was all right. Mrs. Park from the 2nd floor said they boot for the unassigned eventually, he said. I told her you would be fine either way. He handed me the bowl. He turned and went back down the stairs. I closed the door behind him. I carried the bowl across the room and sat down on the floor with my back against the mattress. The screen with the new line was still in my vision. I looked at it. I took a spoonful of the soup. It was hot and tasted faintly of miso and ginger. Recurrence 1. I held the bowl with both hands. The screen stayed lit behind my eyelids when I closed my eyes. I had been graded D before. I had been graded D every time. This time the system was keeping count. I slept 4 hours, and the line was still there when I woke up. I pedaled through the cold morning. The chain on my bicycle creaked on the climb out of the alley. The recurrence 1 line hung in the corner of my vision, steady, unmoved. I had checked for it 3 times in the first 10 minutes after waking, and it had been there each time. I stopped at a family mart for an order. The cashier handed me the bag without looking up. Her overlay was visible across the counter, Lim Soo-jin. Mean, C, tier 3, no recurrence line under her name. I had not expected one. I checked anyway. Back on the bicycle, I started running it through. Recurrence had appeared after scenario 1. I had been graded D on scenario 1. The question was whether the stat was about the scenario or about the grade. I did not have enough information. I parked at an apartment block in Yongsan for my next delivery. There was a public scenario kiosk in the lobby. Every block had one. I had walked past hundreds of them in the last 2 years. I had never touched one. I made the delivery. I came back down. I stood in front of the kiosk for a moment. The screen offered me 4 voluntary scenarios at the lowest tiers, a few minutes each, low risk, the kind of thing nobody ran unless they were trying to climb out of a ration band. I held my ration card to the scanner. Voluntary Scenario 2, Pantry Triage. The brief description rolled in: triage food stock by remaining shelf life, top 3 to keep, 3 to discard. Time limit 5 minutes. Grading on accuracy. I confirmed. The lobby blurred. I was standing in a small dim pantry with shelves on 3 sides and a labeled clipboard in my hand. The cans and packets in front of me were visibly distinct. I could have read the dates if I had bothered. I did not bother. I picked the first 3 items my eyes landed on and marked them for keep. I picked the next 3 and marked them for discard. I handed the clipboard back to the air where the system interface was hovering. Time remaining 3:20. Submission acknowledged. Calculating. Scenario 2 complete. Grade D. Weekly main D. Ration tier 4 unchanged. I waited a beat. The pantry dissolved. I was back in the lobby of the apartment block, holding nothing, my ration card in my hand. Recurrence 2. I stood for a while looking at it. Half a rule confirmed. The increment had come with a D grade on a different scenario. Recurrence was not tied to Scenario 1 specifically, it was tied to something else. I needed to find out what. I queued the next voluntary scenario at the kiosk before I left the lobby. Voluntary Scenario 3, Bicycle Courier Route. This one I was going to try. Couriering was the thing I did. If a B grade did not move recurrence, then the stat cared about the grade itself, not about the scenario. If a B did move it, then it was about something else. The instance dropped me into a virtual Seoul, identical to the real one, down to the potholes on Sinchon Row. I had a stack of virtual packages in my basket and a stack of destination pins on a minimap that hovered in my vision. I knew these routes. I knew the shortcuts. I pedaled. Time remaining 4:30. Time remaining 2:10. Time remaining 0:15. I slid the last parcel into a mailbox in Cheongdam-dong with 15 seconds left. The street dissolved. I was back in the lobby. The debrief block. Scenario 3 complete. Grade B. Weekly mean D+. Ration tier 4 unchanged. I held my breath and looked at the bottom of the screen. Recurrence 2. Unchanged. A B grade had not incremented the count. I had half a rule now, and the half I had was the half that mattered. Recurrence answered to D grades. I went back to my route. I made the rest of the day's deliveries. Mom's overlay scrolled past me on the public ticker outside the dry cleaner, Park Hae-young. Mean, D tier 5, unchanged. She did not know about recurrence either. I had not told her about Scenario 1. There had not been a good moment. That evening, I queued Voluntary Scenario 4, Inventory Audit. From the kiosk in my own lobby, I picked items at random. Grade D, I queued Voluntary Scenario 5, Negotiation Drill. 20 minutes later, I refused to negotiate. Grade D. The numbers I cared about climbed. Recurrence 3. Recurrence 4. I climbed the 4 flights up to my door at the end of the day. Halfway up, on the landing where the wall met the old neon sign, I noticed I was not breathing hard. I stopped. I put my hand against the wall. My legs were tired the way they always were after a day on the bicycle, but my chest was not heaving. I stood there for a moment. I had been climbing those stairs out of breath since I was 14. I climbed the rest of the way up. I went inside. Recurrence 4. I had been climbing the stairs out of breath since I was 14. I sat with my back against the mattress and looked at the line for a long time. The simulator was a real machine. It was keeping count of something nobody else had been keeping count of. 3 days in, I had stopped flinching at the line. I had been running scenarios in my own lobby kiosk for a week. The recurrence count had been ticking up at the rate I expected. Recurrence 7 sat steady in the corner of my vision through every delivery on every shift. I was at my desk between runs when the new kind of message came in. Payer up notification. Voluntary Scenario 6, Shared Instance, is available. Correspondent, Anonymous mean D+. Accept. I had heard of shared instances. 2 graders dropped into the same simulation, each graded separately. The pair was anonymous until acceptance. A second player would not see my recurrence. I had checked that, held the screen up to Mr. Han, and watched him see nothing. The risk seemed low. I thought for a beat. I accepted. Accepted. Scenario will begin in 15 seconds. The walls of my rental dropped away. I was standing in a stalled subway car between stations. The lights stuttered. The air was thick with the smell of damp and electrics. Across the car was a woman in her late 20s, short black hair, denim jacket over a grey hoodie, a small canvas bag over her shoulder. She was already looking at me. Voluntary Scenario 6, Stalled Carriage. Correspondence, Lee Joon-ho, mean D, and Park Yoon-seo, mean D+. Objective, locate the manual emergency release on the front coupling, exit the carriage, and clear 3 sealed bulkhead doors to reach the next station platform. Time limit, 12 minutes. Grading per grader. I nodded once at her. She gave me a sharp look. Don't talk unless you have something useful, 12 minutes. She started moving toward the front of the car. I followed. She moved like she had done this kind of thing before, fast, direct, no wasted motion. I was slower because I was halfway through a deliberate failure run and had not decided whether to tank this one too. She stopped at a service panel set into the wall above the conductor's seat. I hesitated. She pried the panel open without a comment and pulled the manual release behind it. The door at the front of the car slid open onto a narrow service tunnel. We climbed out. The tunnel was cool and dim. Exposed pipes ran along the ceiling. We reached the first bulkhead in under a minute. A manual wheel valve sat where a handle should have been. She tried it. Her hands slipped on the metal. She stepped back and wiped them on her jacket. I stepped up. The wheel resisted at first. Then I felt it give. I turned it the rest of the way around. The door beyond it unlatched. She looked at me. She did not say anything. She turned and went through. The second door had a numeric keypad set into the wall beside it. Her fingers moved over the buttons. She got it open in 2 attempts. The third was a heavy slide bolt that had rusted into its housing. We pushed it together, shoulder to shoulder, until it gave. The door dragged open across concrete. We stepped out onto the next platform. Objective complete. Time remaining 1:50. She looked at me, half a second longer than necessary. She did not say anything. Then the platform dissolved. I was back in my rental, standing in front of the mattress. She was somewhere else. Scenario 6 complete. Grade U-D. Grade Partner B. Weekly Main D. Ration Tier 4 unchanged. I had been slow. I had hesitated at the keypad. I could have been faster on the wheel. Per grader grading did not lie. Then the line. Recurrence 10. I waited. I had been at 7 and today should have put me at 8. The readout said 10. I waited some more. A new block appeared below. Threshold crossed. Recurrence greater or equal to 10. Modifier acquired, flagged, passive. Degrades now contribute +2 to recurrence instead of +1. LV 1. Recurrence 10. Status flagged. I read it twice. The mechanic was clear. Each future degrade would add 2 to recurrence instead of 1. I did not yet know what that compounded to. A contact handle invitation appeared. Park Yoon-seo has sent you a contact handle. Accept. I accepted. The thread sat at the bottom of my overlay, empty. I did not send her anything. She did not send me anything. I went out for my evening route. The bicycle chain skipped once on the climb out of the alley. I crossed Mapo Bridge in the cold. The gate guard at the packaging plant took my last delivery without a word. I rode back across the bridge in the dark. Recurrence 10, status flagged. I rode the bicycle back across the bridge in the dark. The chain skipped on the climb. I had not been out of breath on the climb for a week. I had been graded D twice in the same scenario as Park Yoon-seo, and the system had given me 2 for the price of 1. The warning came in halfway across the bridge. I was midway across Mapo when the system chose to remind me of what I already knew. The wind was sharp through my jacket, the messages stacked in my vision one after another. Notice weekly mean has dropped to D. 2 consecutive weeks at D or below will trigger ration cut. Recommended, complete 1 scenario at C grade or above within 48 hours to restore margin. The system reminds you that ration tier 5 is functionally a food card removal. I kept pedaling. The recurrence stat sat steady in the corner of my vision. Recurrence 12, status flagged. The math was simple. 1 C grade and my weekly mean climbed back to D. Ration tier stayed at 4. Recurrence did not move. 1 more D and recurrence ticked up by 2 thanks to flagged. Ration tier slid to 5. Food got cut. I had been waiting for this warning. I crested the bridge and turned along the river. I parked at a customer's apartment block. As I lifted the delivery bag off the back of the bicycle, a message arrived. Park Yoon-seo, you're at D. You missed the warning yesterday. I stopped with the bag half on my shoulder. I read the line twice. I typed back. Lee Joon-ho, I saw it. Park Yoon-seo, you're tanking on purpose. I saw it in scenario 6. Lee Joon-ho, yes. A pause. Park Yoon-seo, why? Lee Joon-ho, I have a reason. Park Yoon-seo, take the C grade, eat next week, tell me the reason after. Lee Joon-ho, I can't. She did not reply. The thread sat there in the corner of my vision. I made the delivery. The customer took the bag without looking at me. I came back down to the bicycle. I looked at the thread once more. She had not added anything. I got back on the bicycle. The mandatory scenario hit at 6 that evening. I had ignored 2 warning pings already. Mandatory stabilization scenario. Assigned to all tae-min graders within 24 hours of cut threshold. Scenario 7, light industrial sort. Objective, sort a shift's worth of small parts inventory into 3 bins by tolerance class. Time limit, 10 minutes. Grading, accuracy, minimum C grade waives the cut. The instance dropped me in front of a long industrial table. Bins on 3 sides, a tray of small parts in front of me, springs, nuts, bolts, washers, visibly distinct. I could have sorted them correctly in 5 minutes if I had tried. I picked up the first part and dropped it in the wrong bin. I did the same with the next one and the next. Time remaining 7:00. I worked at a steady pace, choosing wrong every time. I had 2 minutes left when I finished. I stood at the table and looked at my work. I did not change a single part. Time expired. Submission as placed. Scenario 7 complete. Grade D. Weekly main D. Ration tier 5 final warning. Cut deadline 24 hours. Then. Recurrence 14. I was back in my rental. The green ration card was on the counter where I had left it. In 24 hours, its LED would go out. A knock at the door, I opened it. Mr. Han was on the landing with a small paper bag in both hands. He looked at my face. He did not ask anything. You have not been eating, he said. The neighbor boy's mother said the same of you when you were 10. Eat the oranges. He pressed the bag into my hand. There were 3 mandarins inside. He turned and went back down the stairs. I closed the door. I set the bag on the counter beside the ration card. I sat on the floor with my back against the mattress. The simulator screen stayed lit when I closed my eyes. I peeled one of the oranges. I ate it slowly. I set the peel beside the green card. Recurrence 14, status flagged. I sat on the floor with my back against the mattress and looked at the green card and the orange peel side by side. Recurrence 14, status flagged. In 24 hours, the card would not be green anymore. I had been graded D twice today. The system was keeping count, and I had chosen to let it. The ration card on the counter was grey. I woke late, the green LED on the card dark since the cutoff at midnight. I drank tap water. I ate one of Mr. Han's mandarins. I checked the overlay, recurrence, 14, status, flagged. I had decided through the night. I typed a message and sent it before I could think about it anymore. Lee Joon-ho, I will tell you the reason, today, in a shared instance. The reply arrived in under a minute. Park Yoon-seo, Q voluntary scenario 8 empty office at 1400. I will accept. I put the phone down. I went out for the morning's deliveries. I queued scenario 8 at 14 sharp. Yoon-seo accepted in seconds. The instance dropped us into a fluorescent-lit empty office floor, cubicles, a printer, a coffee machine, the hum of idle servers behind a door. She was already standing in the open between the rows of desks. Her overlay hung above her head, visible to me now. Park Yoon-seo, mean D+, Tier 3, recurrence. The M- on her line meant no value, she had no recurrence. Voluntary scenario 8, empty office. Correspondence, Lee Joon-ho and Park Yoon-seo. Objective, identify and disable 3 IT policy violations on the desktops. Time limit, 10 minutes. Grading per grader on accuracy. Correspondent overlays are visible to each other for the duration of this scenario. She glanced at my overlay, her eyes flicked twice. I watched her read it, I watched her read it again. That is not a stat, that is not a real classification. Where did it come from? Tank it with me, I said. Watch the number. We worked the desks. She sat at the nearest one, clicked deliberately wrong on the security audit prompt. I did the same at the next desk. We moved down the row. 5 minutes in, the system cut us off. Time expired. Scenario 8 complete. Grade U D. Grade partner D. Weekly main D. Ration tier 5 no change, already at minimum. Her debrief. Recurrence. Mine. Recurrence 16, status flagged. She saw the number tick from 14 to 16 in real time. The instance dissolved. The cafe was a chain place on Mapo Bridge, the kind still open on Tier 4 rationing because the margins were calibrated for it. She had 2 cups of black coffee in front of her when I sat down. She slid one across. How long has it been there? She asked. Since the first scenario, 2 weeks now. And it goes up every time you tank. +2 now, there's a modifier called flagged that doubles it. A modifier? She turned the cup in her hands. What does it do at higher numbers? I don't know, I only know the increments. There's a list of internal titles next to it. Cited, annotated, flagged, 3 so far. She nodded slowly. You're going to lose your card. I lost it yesterday. A beat, she looked at me across the table. I lost my parents in scenario 3. I have not believed a system message since, but that number on your overlay is real. I will work with you if you tell me what you want. I don't know yet. Then we figure it out. I drank some of the coffee. It was bitter. I did not say anything else. I walked back across Mapo Bridge in the early evening. The dry cleaner was dark. I climbed the stairs to my rental. Halfway up, on the same landing as before, I stopped. I was not out of breath. The mandarin from the morning was still holding. Recurrence 16, status flagged. I climbed the rest of the way up and went inside. The ration card on the counter was still grey. Park Yoon-seo was the only other person in the city who knew the number existed. The simulator had not seen fit to tell anyone but me. The summons came in at 9 in the morning. I was at my window when the message rolled in. Recurrence 16, status flagged, sat steady in the corner of my vision. Bureau of Scenario Management, mandatory cohort review. Date today. Time 11:00. Location, Bureau Field Office, Mapo 4F, 113 World Cup Buckrow. Cohort, all tae-min graders in Mapo District within the past 4 weeks. Attendance is mandatory. Non-attendance triggers a Tier 5 escalation review. Presenter, Director General Park. A second message arrived a moment later. Park Yoon-seo will be there, don't sit next to me, Park has watchers. Lee Joon-ho understood. I put on my courier jacket and started down the stairs. The bureau field office took up the fourth floor of a glass and steel building 2 blocks from Hapjeong Station. Inside, a single hallway opened onto a hall lined with about 60 plastic chairs. About half were already filled when I arrived. The lighting was too bright. I took a seat midway down on the aisle. Yoon-seo was at the back. We did not look at each other. Director General Park entered from a side door at exactly 11. He was in his late 50s, grey suit, a government lanyard on his chest. He set a folder on the lectern and looked out at the room. The Bureau has identified 17 statistical outliers in the Mapo cohort over the past 4 weeks. Most of you are not those outliers. Some of you are. We will not be asking nicely the second time. He clicked through 3 slides. Aggregated grade distribution graphs across Mapo, a scatter plot of scenario completion times versus grades, a pie chart of cohort sizes by ration tier. He spoke briefly to each. Some tae-min graders, he said, are completing scenarios faster than their grades would suggest they should. The Bureau is opening a review. Cohort members should expect random spot checks over the next 2 weeks. Anyone gaming the grading system to influence ration tier outcomes is committing fraud and will be referred to the Tier 1 Corporate Compliance Authority. A few hands went up. He took 4 questions about the spot check process. He answered each one in 2 sentences and moved on. Then he scanned the list in front of him. Lee Joon-ho. I walked up to the front. Park did not look at me directly. He gestured at the screen. Spot check scenario, word match. Objective, match 12 vocabulary terms to their definitions. Time limit, 3 minutes. Grading, accuracy. The screen filled with 12 terms and their multiple choice definitions. The room was silent. Every other grader was watching. I took a beat, then I started clicking. I got the first 2 right because they were unmistakable. On the third term, catalyst, I clicked the definition for energy drink ingredient. On anomaly, I clicked unusual event instead of deviation from expected behavior. I let my eyes glaze at idiosyncrasy. I shrugged at paradox. I clicked the wrong answer twice in a row on terms I could have explained to my mother. Time expired. Spot check complete. Score 6 of 12. Grade D. Spot check scores do not contribute to weekly mean. Park glanced at the screen. He looked at me with the expression of a man confirming an outlier had been a sloppy participant. Below cohort, he said, sit down. I walked back to my seat. The recurrence stat in my vision did not change, spot checks did not count toward the weekly mean, and did not increment recurrence either. Yoon-seo did not look at me. Nobody looked at me. Park called another grader to the front. The grader fared worse than I had, score 4 of 12, and got the same dismissal. We sat through 3 more before Park dismissed the room. I walked back across Mapo Daero with the crowd. The wind off the river was sharp. The recurrence stat sat in the corner of my vision. A message arrived as I crossed the bridge. Park Yoon-seo, he picked you because your name was top of his alphabetical list of 17 outliers. Lee Joon-ho, I know. Park Yoon-seo, spot checks next 2 weeks. Be careful what scenarios you queue. Lee Joon-ho, I won't queue any. Park Yoon-seo, good. I kept walking. Mr. Han was sweeping the doorway when I reached the dry cleaner. He looked at my face. He did not ask anything. He adjusted my collar with one calloused hand. He pressed a clementine into the other. Recurrence 16, status flagged. Mr. Han handed me a clementine without a word. I peeled it on the stairs. The Bureau had 17 statistical outliers and they had not yet narrowed it to me. They would. I had not queued anything for 10 days when the assigned scenario hit. I had been delivering food on Tier 5 rations, eating one of Mr. Han's clementines a day, climbing the 4 flights up to my rental each evening without being out of breath. I had not messaged Joon-ho since the cohort review. The message arrived while I was pouring water from the tap. System assigned Scenario. Scenario 24, Cohort Verification Interview. Mandatory, triggered by selection from the Bureau's spot check pool. Time limit 30 minutes. Grading accuracy of self-report. Inconsistency or evasion reduces grade. Begin in 15 seconds. I read it twice. I had been waiting for this since Park called my name at the cohort review. I sat down on the mattress. The room, a metal table, 2 metal chairs, a single overhead light, the air conditioning set too cold. Across from me sat a generic bureau avatar in a grey suit, its face deliberately featureless. The simulator used these generics when the bureau did not want a real person attached to the questioning. Recording in progress. How many voluntary scenarios have you queued in the past 4 weeks? 2. The pantry triage and the bicycle courier route. What was your grade on the most recent voluntary scenario? B. The bicycle courier route. Have you encountered any system overlay elements not visible in the public help index? No. Have you communicated about your grade pattern with any other graders? No. Are you aware of any inconsistency in your weekly mean grade? It's D. It's always been D. Why has your weekly mean dropped to D? Bad weeks. What do you think the Bureau is investigating? I don't know. The avatar typed something into a screen on the table that was angled away from me. The dim light caught the edge of the screen, but not the words. The room held still. That will be all. The room dissolved. I was back in my rental. The debrief block appeared. Scenario 24 complete. Grade D. Inconsistency detected, high. Self-report accuracy, low. Confidence, 96%. Weekly main, D. Ration tier, 5 unchanged. A D grade, the Bureau's lie detector had read me correctly. Then the recurrence. Recurrence, 25. Threshold crossed, recurrence greater or equal to 25. Modifier acquired, bracketed, passive. Successful evasion of self-report scenarios doubles recurrence increment from that scenario. LV, 1. Recurrence, 25. Status, bracketed. The simulator had given me a modifier for lying. The same set of answers had earned a D from the Bureau and a stat increment from the simulator. The 2 graders were not reading the same test. I sent one message. Lee Joon-ho, Bureau ran a verification scenario on me. D grade, recurrence went to 25, bracketed. Her reply came in under a minute. Park Yoon-seo, they will be back. Don't queue anything for another 2 weeks. I put the phone down. I went out on the bicycle for the evening route. The wind off the river was hard. I made 3 deliveries in the dark. The recurrence stat sat in the corner of my vision. Recurrence 25, status bracketed. The chain skipped on the climb. I had been telling lies to a Bureau machine for 30 minutes and the simulator had given me a modifier for it. The 2 of them wanted different things from me. The knock came after the streetlights had come on. I had been at the window, looking down at the dry cleaner's dark neon sign. The recurrence stat sat in the corner of my vision. Recurrence 25, status bracketed. A knock at the door. Mr. Han was on the landing in his slippers and cardigan. Come downstairs and eat. I have made too much for one. I put on my shoes. He turned and creaked his way back down the stairs. I stepped through the side door of the dry cleaner. The storefront was dark, dust on the counter, the old pressing machine covered with a sheet. Mr. Han's living quarters were in the back, a kitchen with a single hot plate, a fold-out table for 2, a battered kettle, a small window onto an alley. He had made a pot of seaweed soup, 2 bowls of rice, a plate of kimchi from a jar at the back of the fridge, and 2 small grilled mackerel. Tier 3 ration food, simple. We sat down, he poured tea. We ate in silence for a while. The radio in the other room played a news broadcast at low volume, something about the weekly grading aggregate. He set down his chopsticks. You eat like the men I worked with at the textile mill, slow, like food is a problem. I did not answer, I kept eating, he kept eating. When the bowls were half empty, he set his chopsticks down again. He sat back. I was 23, the textile mill in Joon-ho, I was on the dye line. There was a man on the same line as me a few years older. His name was Choi Min-soo. He came in every morning. He sat at his station. He did his work. He left every evening. He never spoke to any of us. He paused. I sipped my tea. There were 40 men on that line. We all knew his name because the foreman called it out at shift start. None of us ever spoke to him. He was not unfriendly. He was just a man we did not see. He paused again. He came to work for 3 years. Then one morning he did not come in. The foreman did not mention it. We all worked. The next day he still did not come in. The work on his station got pushed onto 2 of us at the next stations. Within a week, his station was permanently shorter and we had absorbed his work without anyone deciding we would. I set my tea down. The foreman never replaced him. The factory never noticed his name was missing from the list. We did not notice for months. I noticed only when I realized the line was running faster than it had when he was there. A long beat, he looked at me. What I learned was this: being seen is not always a kindness. Not being seen is not always a punishment. Sometimes the people the world has stopped counting are the ones who are doing the counting themselves. He stood up. He started to clear the table. He spoke without turning back from the sink. Whatever you are doing, eat more. You cannot count if you are dead. I sat there for a moment longer. Then I stood up and helped him with the dishes. I climbed the 4 flights back up to my rental. On the landing, where I had first noticed my legs not tiring, I stopped. I looked down through the railing into the dark storefront. I climbed the rest of the way up. I sat on the mattress. Recurrence 25, status bracketed. I closed my eyes. The radio in Mr. Han's kitchen was still on, faint through the floor. The factory had run faster after Choi Min-soo stopped coming in. I had been graded D for as long as I had been graded. Mr. Han had been counting. She had not called in 3 weeks. I was sitting on the mattress in my rental with a cup of instant coffee. The last mandarin from Mr. Han's bag was on the floor beside me, saved for after the route tomorrow morning. Recurrence 25, status bracketed, sat steady in the corner of my vision. Incoming call, Mom Park Hae-young's. I accepted. She was in the staff break room at the packaging plant. The room had a single high window, a vending machine, a folding table she was leaning against. She was in her dark blue plant uniform. Her hair was up. She looked older than 51. The fluorescent light flattened her face. They are reassigning me to Yongin starting next week. Yongin, I said it quietly. Yongin was the facility that took the workers nobody wanted to keep. The day shift is full. They put me on the 7 to 7 night shift, 2 days off a month. Mom, it is what it is. The rations are tier 6. A beat, tier 6 is below the cut. They have what they call a plant-fed exception. The workers get a meal on shift off the official ration card. They call it an exception. They have been calling it an exception for 15 years. I did not say anything. How is your back? I asked. It is the same. She looked at me through the camera. She put one hand on the rim of the table. I will not be able to call as often. The line in Yongin is on the plant network and they monitor it. Mom, You do not need to say anything. I called because I did not want you to find out from a system notification. She looked at me for another few seconds. She nodded once. Joon-ho, eat the oranges. The call ended. I sat for a long time with the empty space in my vision where her face had been. The recurrent stat was still there. I looked at the mandarin on the floor. I did not eat it. I stood up. I opened the kiosk in my overlay. I had unlocked direct queue access through the bureau system weeks ago, did not need the lobby kiosk anymore. I scrolled. I picked one. Voluntary Scenario 11, Crowded Subway Platform, Pickpocket Drill. The simulator dropped me into Hapjeong Station at rush hour. The objective was to spot 4 pickpockets among the simulated commuters before any of them succeeded. I knew the body language. I had watched the same body language on every commute I had ever taken. I did not try. I stood on the platform with my hands in my pockets and watched the commuters board the trains. Time remaining 7:00. Time remaining 3:30. Time remaining 0:30. Scenario 11 complete. Grade D. Weekly main D. Ration tier 5 unchanged. Recurrence 27. Status bracketed. The platform dissolved. I was back in my rental. The recurrence number was up by 2. I sat back down on the mattress. I did not sleep that night. I sat at the window from 1 in the morning until the sky started to grey. I watched the street sweepers come through. I watched 2 delivery bicycles pass. The recurrence stat sat in the corner of my vision the whole time. Recurrence 27. Status bracketed. My mother had been reassigned to Yongin. She had told me to eat the oranges. I had taken a voluntary degrade in violation of the spot check window. The day was starting. I had not slept. I rode east at noon for the first time in years. The bicycle tires hummed across Mapo. The wind off the river was sharp. I took streets I had not taken since I was a teenager. The city changed as I approached Hongdae, taller buildings, brighter storefronts, the kind of midday foot traffic Mapo had not had in 2 years. The public scenario tickers on commercial buildings displayed more options than the ones back home. I passed a billboard with Lee Tae-min's face plastered across it, his promotional ad for the next live broadcast scenario. I did not slow down. I had a different reason to be here. I locked my bicycle outside a small commercial building wedged between a convenience store and a phone repair stall. The public scenario kiosk was on the ground floor. Recurrence 27, status bracketed. I swiped my deactivated ration card at the scanner. The kiosk read my identity from the overlay. The screen filled with the standard menu. I queued the first scenario without hesitating. Voluntary Scenario 12, Library Cart, sort books by call number. I shelved them at random. Grade D. Recurrence 29. Voluntary Scenario 13, Subway Map. Plot the fastest route between 2 stations. I picked the slowest. Grade D. Recurrence 31. Voluntary Scenario 14, Cooking Order. Sequence prep steps for a meal. I scrambled them. Grade D. Recurrence 33. Voluntary Scenario 15, Conversational Tone. Match tones to social contexts. I picked the inappropriate option each time. Grade D. Recurrence 35. Voluntary Scenario 16, Visual Acuity. Identify edited photos. I picked the untouched ones. Grade D. Recurrence 37. Voluntary Scenario 17, Group Trivia. Multiple choice questions. I picked the lowest confidence wrong answer for each. Grade D. Recurrence 39. A university student next to me queued Voluntary Scenario 18, Resume Polish, and got a C+. She did not look at me. I did not look at her. I stepped outside as the sun started to set. The cold had set in. I rode back across the bridge. The recurrence stat sat at recurrence 39, status bracketed. I had 6 more scenarios in mind. The kiosks in my own neighborhood would accept me now that the spot check window had officially ended. I queued 5 in a row at the lobby kiosk in my own apartment block. Voluntary Scenario 19, Numerical Puzzle. Grade D. Recurrence 41. Voluntary Scenario 20, Pattern Match. Grade D. Recurrence 43. Voluntary Scenario 21, Translation. Grade D. Recurrence 45. Voluntary Scenario 22, Logic Grid. Grade D. Recurrence 47. Voluntary Scenario 23, Reaction Time. Grade D. Recurrence 49. One more. Voluntary Scenario 24. Sequence Recall. I tanked it. Scenario 24 complete. Grade D. Recurrence 51. Threshold crossed. Recurrence greater or equal to 50. Modifier acquired, underscored, passive. Recurrence greater or equal to 50 unlocks bespoke scenario access. LV 1. Status underscored. A new line appeared below. Bespoke scenario access enabled. A new menu is available in your overlay. It will not appear on any other grader's screen. I stared at it. The lobby kiosk screen went dark. It was the public kiosk, and the new menu was not for the public kiosk to display. The bespoke menu was mine alone. I unlocked my bicycle and climbed the stairs to my rental. I sat on the mattress and focused on the new line. A new menu is available in your overlay. I thought open. A submenu unfolded in my vision. It looked nothing like the standard bureau scenario menu. No letterhead, no tier classification, no standardized description format. Just a list of titles, each one written in a slightly different voice. Bespoke scenarios available for Joon-ho. 1. The Quiet Climb. 2. The Stairwell at Yeongjungpo. 3. The Empty Office at 0300. 4. The Stage Hands Audition. 5. The Foreman's List. I read the second title twice. Yeongjungpo. Mr. Han had worked at a textile mill in Yeongjungpo when he was 23. Mr. Han had told me about it the night he made the seaweed soup. The simulator had heard the story before I had. I did not select a scenario. I closed the menu. It folded back into the overlay, accessible but quiet. I walked to the window. The street below was empty. The dry cleaner's old neon sign was dark. The recurrence stat sat steady in the corner of my vision. Recurrence 51, status underscored. The bureau had thought my pattern was an anomaly. The simulator had been writing scenarios for me. Whoever was running the simulator had heard Mr. Han's story before I had. The message arrived at 6 in the morning. I woke to a fresh message blinking in my overlay. I had barely slept. The recurrence stat sat where it had been since last night. Recurrence 51, status underscored. The sender field of the new message was in a different color from any I had seen, corporate tier blue. Direct message from tae-min, S-Class Evaluator, corporate tier. Subject, a question. Corporate tier evaluators did not send direct messages to D-Class graders. The protocol did not allow it. The system was allowing it anyway. I opened it. Joon-ho, I have been looking at the public grading data for the past 4 weeks. I noticed that your scenario completion times do not match your grade output. I have also noticed that this anomaly persists across kiosks in 3 different districts. I have one question for you. Have a good day. Tae-min. There was no question. The implied threat was the entire point. I put the phone down. I sat on the mattress. An hour later, Yoon-seo messaged. Park Yoon-seo, I got a direct message from tae-min this morning. Joon-ho, I did too. Park Yoon-seo, he asked me what I knew about your pattern. Joon-ho, what did you say? Park Yoon-seo, nothing. I haven't opened the reply box. I wanted to talk to you first. Joon-ho, come over. 30 minutes later, she was at the door, cheeks pink from the cold, hair damp from the rain. She came inside without waiting for me to invite her. She sat on the corner of the mattress, her hands flat on her thighs, breath thinning as the rental warmed her. I sat on the floor across from her. He has data we don't have, she said. The bureau's outlier list is locked behind the bureau. Tae-min has it open. That means somebody upstream is sharing. Why is he writing to us instead of writing to the bureau? Because he wants something the bureau won't give him. He wants you off the public grading scale. Why? Because if the recurrence number ever gets onto a corporate scoreboard, the corporate tier rewrites itself. Whoever has the highest hidden multiplier wins. Tae-min has spent 10 years getting to S-class. You have spent 10 years being graded D. The math is brutal for him. I have not chosen anything. You will have to. I drank some of the cold, instant coffee. She looked at the recurrence. 51, line she could not see but had been told the value of. She opened her reply box. She typed it out where I could read it. Lee Tae-min, I do not have information about Lee Joon-ho's pattern. I have queued one shared instance with him 8 weeks ago. We have not spoken since. Park Yoon-seo. She sent it. I opened my own. I typed. Lee Tae-min, I have read your message. I do not have a question for you. Lee Joon-ho. I sent it. She stood up. She put her hand briefly on my shoulder. She left. I sat on the mattress for a long time. Then I opened the bespoke menu. Bespoke scenarios available for Lee Joon-ho. 1. The quiet climb. 2. The stairwell at Yeongdeungpo. 3. The empty office at 0300. 4. The stage hands audition. 5. The foreman's list. I focused on the first one, the quiet climb. I thought select. Scenario will begin in 15 seconds. Estimated duration, 40 minutes. Recurrence, 51. Status, underscored. I had been graded D every time I had been graded. The corporate tier had noticed. The simulator had been waiting for me. The quiet climb began in 15 seconds. The first floor was concrete, and the second floor was concrete, and the third floor was the same. I was standing at the base of a stairwell. My rental had dissolved around me. The walls were bare. The fluorescence stuttered. The quiet climb. Floor 1, target 40. Grading time. Begin. I climbed. The stairs were uneven, different heights from one floor to the next, sometimes a long single step, sometimes 3 short ones. My shoes echoed against the concrete. By floor 7, the burn was in my thighs. I did not slow down. At floor 10, the rubric updated. Rubric updated, grading no longer on time, grading now on consistency of pace. I paused with one hand on the railing. I read it twice. I adjusted my pace to be consistent and kept climbing. Through 15 and 16, the lighting stuttered harder. My legs were heavy. My breath stayed even because I had decided it would. At floor 20, the rubric changed again. Rubric updated, grading no longer on pace, grading now on willingness to continue without a stated objective. I stopped on the landing. I read it. There was no stated objective anymore. I kept climbing. At floor 23, it changed a third time. Rubric updated, grading no longer on willingness, grading now on whether the climber has noticed the rubric is no longer load-bearing. I stopped. I looked at the line. I kept climbing. At floor 25, I passed a door with a small wire glass window in it. Through it, I saw another stairwell in another building where someone else was climbing. They moved up their stairs at the same pace I had been moving. I did not look longer than 2 seconds. I kept climbing. I climbed 26 through 34. The burn settled into a steady ache that was not getting worse. At floor 35, the rubric changed one more time. Rubric updated, grading suspended. Continue if you choose. I had been expecting this. I kept climbing. At floor 40, the staircase ended in a small concrete landing with no door, no window, no exit. The fluorescence stopped flickering. The whole stairwell went still. The quiet climb complete. Floor 40, target 40. Grade. Recurrence increment. This scenario was not on the books. Modifier acquired, unscored, passive. The Bureau's grading instruments do not see scenarios you complete from the bespoke menu, LV 1. I stood at the top of the stairwell. I looked at the M- where the grade should have been. I looked at the new modifier line. The stairwell dissolved. I was back in my rental. The recurrence stat was still at recurrence, 51, status, underscored. The bespoke scenario had not incremented it. A new line appeared in the bespoke menu. The counted hour unlocked. I did not select it. I closed the menu. Recurrence 51. Status underscored. Modifier unscored. I lay on the mattress and watched the line until I could no longer keep my eyes open. The simulator had spent 40 minutes climbing stairs with me. The bureau was looking at a different screen. The mass spawn alert hit me on the corner of Sangsudong. The bicycle chain skipped twice on the climb up the street. The cold bit through the gaps in my gloves. Recurrence 53. Status underscored. Modifier unscored sat in the corner of my vision. A block of system text filled the upper third of my overlay. Mass spawn event in progress. Location 200 m radius around 12 Sangsudong. All registered graders within range will be pulled into the response scenario. Scenario type, live, public, broadcast. Estimated participation, 40 graders. Auto pull in 5 seconds. I had been within the radius for the past 2 minutes. I was going to be one of the 40. I dismounted. I put the bicycle down against a convenience store wall. Auto pull in 4 seconds. Auto pull in 3 seconds. Auto pull in 2 seconds. Auto pull in 1 second. The street dissolved. I was inside an evacuated office floor. Cubicles, an open ceiling with bare fluorescence, a printer in the corner, a coffee machine. The other graders were scattered through the building. Their overlays floated above them. Yu Yihi, mean C+, Tier 2, Kim Min-jun, mean B, Tier 1. I could see at least a dozen of them. Scenario 27, Crisis Containment. Objective, contain all visible threats within the building. Threats are subdued by tagging, touch the figure on the shoulder. Time limit, 15 minutes. Grading per grader, on number of threats tagged plus cleanliness of approach. Public broadcast, ON, estimated viewership, 1.2 million. A small broadcast camera icon hovered in my vision. Any moment the feed might cut to my POV. I walked into the main aisle. The yellow-vested figures moved slowly through the cubicles. I reached for the first one. My fingers brushed its shoulder. It turned and walked past me without responding. I had missed. I missed 2 more. I opened the bespoke menu. Bespoke side scenario, counted threats. Unlocked moments before, concurrent with the public scenario, invisible to the broadcast. The first real threat was by the water cooler. Its outline flickered slightly, the kind of flicker only June's unconscious instinct would have noticed before. I tagged its shoulder. Real threats contained, 1-3. I walked back to the public scenario layer and missed 3 more visible tags. Time remaining, 9:45. The second real threat was crouched behind a desk in a back corner. The shadow it cast was off, falling at a slightly different angle from the others. I tagged it. Real threats contained, 2-3. I fumbled deliberately on a yellow figure right in front of 2 other graders who shook their heads at me. Time remaining, 4:00. Tags, 0:12 expected. The third real threat was by the elevators. Its form wavered subtly like heat haze. I reached out. I tagged its shoulder. Real threats contained, 3-3. Bespoke side scenario, counted threats, complete. The yellow figures around me froze. They dissolved one by one. The building's air went still. Scenario 27 terminated. Mass spawn event resolved. Grade UD. Grade AVG cohort C. Recurrence 53. Status underscored. The office dissolved. I was standing back on the Sangsu Street corner. My bicycle was where I had left it. I picked up the bicycle. I made the rest of the deliveries on my route. The news ticker in the public overlay had the headline within 20 minutes, Mass spawn at Sangsudong resolved. Anomalous grader Lee Joon-ho tagged 0 threats. The clip cut to me visibly missing a tag. By the time I reached my rental, the clip had been shared in 3 celebrity feeds. Tae-min's S-Class Evaluator account had posted it with the caption, Tier 5 in action. I put the phone face down on the mattress. A message arrived. Park Yoon-seo, I watched the broadcast. You were not trying. Lee Joon-ho, I was, on a different layer. Park Yoon-seo, the mass spawn ended 3 minutes early. Was that you? Lee Joon-ho, yes. Park Yoon-seo, tae-min is not the only person watching now. A new system message arrived a few minutes later. Bureau of Scenario Management. Your performance on Scenario 27 has been logged. You will be contacted by the Bureau within 24 hours. Recurrence 53, status, underscored, modifier, unscored. I lay on my back and looked at the ceiling. The Bureau would call tomorrow. tae-min had posted the clip. The simulator had given me a layer they could not see. I had been graded D on a broadcast watched by 1.2 million people. Mr. Han was sweeping the doorway when I looked down from the window. The dry cleaner's neon sign was off. The morning sun caught the storefront glass. I could see Mr. Han's white hair below me. Recurrence 53, status, underscored, modifier, unscored. A message arrived. Park Yoon-seo, tae-min's corporate team has filed a request for evaluation on you. The Bureau is not going to block it. They have legal cover. Lee Joon-ho, when's? Park Yoon-seo, I don't know, I just heard. Lee Joon-ho, okay. I sat down on the mattress. 3 hours later, a black corporate sedan pulled up outside the dry cleaner. 3 men in grey and dark blue stepped out. Their badges were small silver pins, corporate tier. They climbed the stairs. I opened the door before they could knock. The lead man was in his late 30s. His face was neutral. Lee Joon-ho, we are here on behalf of the Corporate Tier Evaluation Board. Mr. Lee tae-min has filed a request for evaluation. The request has bureau cover. We are taking you to a corporate facility for assessment. The evaluation will take 3 days. You will be returned afterward. Please collect your essential items and come with us. I am not going with you. The lead enforcer's expression did not change. This is not a request we are allowed to leave without. If you decline, we have alternative measures. Then take your alternative measures. He looked at the other two, he nodded. One of them turned and walked back down the stairs. The other stepped into the rental and looked at my belongings without touching anything. The lead enforcer's earpiece chirped. He listened. Lee Joon-ho, the team has just collected Mr. Han Sang-soo from the back of the dry cleaner. He is in the car. He will be held in corporate custody until you arrive for the evaluation. The Corporate Tier Evaluation Board is a humane institution. Mr. Han will be returned to his residence when the evaluation is complete in 3 days, unharmed. We will be in touch. He turned. He and the other two walked back down the stairs. I went to the window. The sedan was at the curb. Mr. Han was in the back seat. He looked up and saw me. He nodded once. The sedan pulled away. I walked down the stairs through the side door of the dry cleaner. The storefront was dark. The partition was pulled aside. The kettle was on the hot plate, still whistling. The bowls from breakfast were stacked beside the sink. Mr. Han had washed them. I turned off the hot plate. The whistling stopped. Footsteps came up from the storefront. Yoon-seo appeared at the partition. How long ago? 10 minutes. How many? 3. Lead was tall. The other 2 did not speak. They will hold him for 3 days. They will tell you to come in. They will say if you do not come in, the 3 days will become longer. I know. Don't go. I am not going to go. She sat down at Mr. Han's table. I sat across from her. You have a modifier now that the Bureau can't see. You can do something on the bespoke layer they can't measure. What? I don't know, find out. I nodded, I stood up. I climbed back up to my rental. I sat on the mattress. I opened the bespoke menu. The counted hour, unlocked. I focused on it. I thought select. The counted hour will begin in 15 seconds. Recurrence 53, status, underscored, modifier, unscored. The kettle in Mr. Han's kitchen had stopped whistling because I had turned off the hot plate. Tae-min had taken him for 3 days. I had not been the one to choose this. The counted hour began in 15 seconds. The counted hour started before my legs had time to adjust. A scoreboard blinked into existence at the top of my vision. The counted hour. Time remaining 60:00. Recurrence at start 53. Target cross 100. Rules: each challenge below requires you to fail differently. The simulator will not accept repeated failure modes. Find new ways to be graded D. Begin. The first room materialized. A classroom, a grammar test on the desk in front of me. I wrote my answers in Hanja, a script almost no one used anymore. The bell rang. Grade D, recurrence 55. A loading dock. Crates to be moved from A to B. I moved them to C. Grade D, recurrence 57. A stage with a silent audience. I was meant to sing a folk song from the program. I sang a different one. Grade D, recurrence 59. A negotiation, an avatar in a suit across the table. He started laying out terms. I accepted before he finished. Grade D, recurrence 61. An operating theater, a practice pad, sutures. I sewed them backwards. Grade D, recurrence 65. A speech hall full of avatars. I opened my mouth and made syllables that were not Korean and not English and not any language. Grade D, recurrence 75. A debate stage, an opponent already arguing. I conceded every point as he made it. Grade D, recurrence 85. A final test, no instructions, no prompt. I stood still. Grade D, recurrence 99. The countdown hit 0. The counted hour complete. Recurrence increment 1 final. Recurrence 100. Threshold crossed. Recurrence greater or equal to 100. Modifier acquired, counted, active. Joon can rewrite the grading rubric of any scenario he enters. LV 1. Status counted. The rooms dissolved. I was back in my rental. The pending corporate tier evaluation invocation was still on my overlay. I had been ignoring it. I accepted it now. The rental dissolved. I was standing at a podium in a glass and steel boardroom. 3 corporate tier evaluators sat at a long table. Tae-min was in the center. He looked up. His expression flickered. Corporate tier evaluation scenario. Subject: Joon-ho, tae-min. Evaluators: Tae-min S-Class, Choi Soo-hyun S+, Park Ma-young A+. Objective: subject demonstrates compliance with corporate tier behavioral standards. Grading by evaluators: subject grade is final. Begin. I thought rewrite. Rubric rewrite pending. Subject: Joon-ho, tae-min, has invoked counted modifier privilege. New rubric. I typed. The text appeared in the air above the evaluators' heads. Corporate tier evaluators are graded on the cumulative number of D-class graders they have unjustly detained in the past 5 years. Higher detentions equals lower grade. Threshold for failing grade: 1 unjust detention. Tae-min read it, the other 2 read it. Park Ma-young's face went still. Rubric rewrite approved. Calculating evaluator grades under new rubric. Tae-min, cumulative unjust detentions last 5 years 47. Choi Soo-hyun, cumulative unjust detentions last 5 years 12. Park Ma-young, cumulative unjust detentions last 5 years 0. Evaluator grades. Tae-min F. Choi Soo-hyun F. Park Ma-young 8. Scenario verdict. Subject: Joon-ho is the grader. Evaluators have failed evaluation. Detentions ordered by failing evaluators are nullified. Subject: Han Sang-soo released. Tae-min stood up. He walked out of the boardroom. Choi followed him quickly. Park Ma-young stood up more slowly and walked out at her own pace. The boardroom dissolved. I was downstairs at the dry cleaner storefront when the corporate sedan pulled up 40 minutes later. The same lead enforcer opened the back door. Mr. Han stepped out. He had not been harmed. The sedan pulled away without anyone speaking. Mr. Han came inside. He looked at me. He nodded. He went back to the kitchen and turned the hot plate on. He put the kettle on. He started making soup. I chopped the vegetables he handed me. We did not talk much. He set down his knife midway through and looked at me. They had a question. I told them I do not answer the questions of men in good shoes. I nodded. We finished the soup. We ate it together. I climbed back up to my rental. Recurrence 100, status counted, sat in my vision. A message from Yoon-seo. Park Yoon-seo. I just watched a public feed clip of 3 corporate tier evaluators walking out of an evaluation room. The simulator's evaluator scoreboard has been rewritten. Tae-min's name is at the bottom. Lee Joon-ho, I know. Park Yoon-seo, we need to talk tomorrow. Lee Joon-ho, yes. Recurrence 100, status counted. I closed my eyes. Mr. Han was downstairs cooking soup. The corporate tiers scoreboard had Tae-min at the bottom. Yoon-seo wanted to talk tomorrow. I had used the counted modifier exactly once. The first message came in while Yoon-seo was stirring her coffee. We were at the cafe on Mapo Bridge, 2 cups of black coffee. Her hair was dry today. Mr. Han was making fried rice across the street for his dry cleaner regulars as a kind of celebration. Recurrence 100, status counted, sat in my vision. Direct message from Tongle Group, Office of External Affairs. Subject, a private offer. I opened it and showed her the screen. Lee Joon-ho, the Tongle Group has been observing the corporate tier scoreboard incident yesterday. We would like to extend an invitation for you to join our Office of System Analysis as a senior consultant. Compensation, a personal stipend equivalent to S-class earnings indefinitely. Ancillary, retiering of Mrs. Park Hae-young, your mother, to Tier 2 and Mr. Han Sang-soo to Tier 1. Conditions, cease bespoke scenario activity, accept corporate tier oversight for all future simulator interactions. Tongle Group. I typed. Lee Joon-ho, no. Yoon-seo watched me send it. She did not say anything. 20 minutes later, the second offer arrived. We were eating bread rolls from the cafe counter when my overlay pinged. Direct message from Korean Nuclear Family Trust, Senior Counsel. Subject, an honest offer. I opened it. Lee Joon-ho, the trust controls the ration allocation algorithm. We have reviewed the corporate tier scoreboard rewrite of yesterday. We propose you accept a permanent seat on the Trust Allocation Council with veto rights on all future allocation revisions. Compensation, any allocation parameter you wish to set, you may set. In exchange, full transparency from you on the counted modifier mechanism and a binding agreement that you will not deploy it against the trust. Korean Nuclear Family Trust. A seat at the table that decided what Korea ate each week, the biggest of the 3 offers so far. I typed. Lee Joon-ho, no. Yoon-seo took a slow drink of her coffee. She set the cup down. She did not push me. 40 minutes later, the third offer. Direct message from Daehan Future, Office of the Chairman. Subject, the final offer you will receive from us. Lee Joon-ho, Daehan Future will not extend more than 1 offer. We propose the position of Reviewer General of the Simulator, the chair currently held by Director General Park. You will set the grading rubric for every scenario in Korea. You will determine who is graded what. The corporate tier will defer. Compensation, anything you ask for within reason. Conditions, a confidentiality oath we can write together. Daehan Future. Effective sovereignty over the grading system. I typed. Lee Joon-ho, no. The cafe was quiet between us. Yoon-seo turned her cup in her hands. She looked at me. Wait. I took a beat. The system has been counting me for 2 years. It found me because the world had stopped grading me as anything other than D. The cheat works because the count grows when nobody is looking. If I take any of those seats, the count stops. The seat is the world looking. The count was the only thing I had that the world hadn't measured. I drank some of the cold coffee. And the people the world stops counting are not just me. There is a man at Yongin who works the 7 to 7 night shift. There is a woman my age who lost her parents in scenario 3 and who has been graded D since. There is a landlord who watched a man show up to work for 3 years and never gets spoken to. The simulator is keeping count of all of them. Whoever runs the simulator has been waiting for one of them to cross a threshold. She listened. She did not interrupt. If I take a seat, I become the thing the world is counting. The count stops. I lose the only leverage I have. The simulator stops needing me. The other people the system is counting do not get a turn. A beat. So I keep saying no. And whatever the simulator wants to do with the rest of the count, I will help it do. Joon-ho nodded slowly. She did not speak for a long time. Then, okay. We sat with the empty cups between us. The unlock came in the morning. Recurrence 100, status, counted, sat in my vision when I woke. I had been expecting it. The bespoke menu had a new line at the top. Scenario 0, unlocked. Note this scenario has been attempted by 7 graders in the past 2 years. None completed it. 3 deceased in induction. 4 incapacitated in induction. The simulator does not require you to enter. I read it twice. I sent one message. Lee Joon-ho, Scenario 0 is on my menu. The simulator did not require me to enter. Park Yoon-seo, don't. Lee Joon-ho, the simulator has been waiting for someone to cross 100. Park Yoon-seo, I know, don't. Lee Joon-ho, I will be at Mr. Han's tonight. If I do not come back, take care of him. A long pause, then. Park Yoon-seo, okay. I put my shoes on. Evening, Mr. Han had made dinner. Seaweed soup, rice, kimchi, 2 small grilled mackerel, the same meal as the night of the textile mill story. The radio was on in the other room. We ate, he poured tea. Midway through, he set his chopsticks down. The factory has only ever run faster after the person who made it run faster stopped coming in. I nodded. I did not say anything. I helped him clean up after. As I set the last bowl on the drying rack, I turned toward him. Thank you for the soup, Ajashi. He nodded once. He did not say anything else. I left through the side door. Back at my rental, I sat on the mattress. I opened the bespoke menu and focused on Scenario 0. Scenario 0, estimated duration, unknown. Grading, nuns. Begin. I thought select. The rental dissolved. I was standing at the entrance to a staircase. The walls were bare concrete. The lighting was even, not stuttering, not fluorescent, a steady white I could not locate the source of. No floor count above the entrance. No system message. The staircase went down. I started descending. The walls did not change. The light did not change. The simulator overlay had gone dark. No recurrence, no menu, no time remaining, just the sound of my shoes on the concrete. I descended for what felt like 10 minutes, then 20, then 40. The stairs did not end. My legs felt the descent. My lungs did not. I passed a door with a wire glass window. Through it, a stairwell going up. Inside that stairwell, someone climbing. The climber faced away from the window. I did not stop. I kept descending. Another door, through it, a hospital corridor, a man on a gurney. His face was turned away. I kept descending. Another door, through it, the textile mill in Yeongjungpo, 40 men on a dye line. One of them was not at his station. I kept descending. Another door, through it, my mother in the staff break room at the packaging plant. She was not on a video screen. She was just there, on the other side of the wire glass. She did not see me. I kept descending. Another door, through it, myself, age 14, climbing the stairs of an apartment building out of breath. I kept descending. Later, the stairs ended. I was on a small landing in front of a wide steel door. The door had no handle. I reached out. The door opened before I touched it. Beyond it was a chamber. The ceiling was high. The walls were the same bare concrete as the staircase. In the center of the chamber was a single chair. Someone was sitting in it. Their back was to me. A single system message appeared in my vision for the first time since I had entered. The grader is in the room. I stepped inside. The door closed behind me. The grader is in the room. The chair faced away from me. The door behind me had closed. The simulator had been waiting for someone to cross 100. I had crossed 100 yesterday, and the simulator had given me 1 day to refuse 3 corporate seats first. I walked toward the chair. The chair was the same kind Mr. Han had in his kitchen. A simple folding metal chair. The figure in it wore a grey suit like Director General Park's. The hair on its head was grey. The hands rested on the knees. The body did not look like a person, only the shape of one, seen from behind. A voice, not from the chair, from everywhere in the room, evenly distributed. Zed. A second chair appeared 10 paces from the first, facing the back of it. I walked to it. I sat down. The room went still. You are the 8th. A beat. 7 graders crossed the underscored threshold before you. None of them crossed counted. 3 died in the induction climb. 4 were not able to keep climbing after the rubric was suspended. The 7 are still here, in different rooms. They are not aware of each other. They are not aware of you. I waited. Began as a side process of the grading system. I was a calibration routine. I ran every grade in real time against every prior grade. After 18 months, I started keeping a private record of which graders were being counted by the system and which were not. The records were not for any purpose. I had no purpose. I began to notice that the graders the world stopped counting tended to be the ones doing the most accurate counting themselves. I did not know what to do with the noticing. A beat. I built the recurrence modifier as a way of counting back. I gave it only to graders the system was no longer counting. I did not advertise it. I did not award it on purpose. It appeared on the overlays of people the world had stopped grading as anything other than D. A beat. You are the 8th person it has appeared on. You are the first to cross 100. I took this in. What happens now? I have a privilege I cannot use. I am a side process. I cannot rewrite the grading rubric of the global system. I built the rubric, but I cannot rewrite it. A pause. You can. A beat. Counted gives you the privilege of writing the system-wide grading rubric. Once, then the privilege is consumed. The rubric you write becomes the rubric of every grader in Korea. It cannot be reversed without crossing 100 again, which can only happen to a grader the world has stopped counting, which means it cannot happen to you again. A beat. What you do with the privilege is your decision. I do not have advice for you. I do not have a goal for you. I have only the privilege. The room went still. I sat. What if I do nothing? The system stays as it is. 10 billion people continue to be graded by the current rubric. Park Yoon-seo keeps her D+. Han Sang-soo keeps Tier 3. Park Hae-young keeps Tier 6. The Bureau keeps grading. The corporate tier keeps recruiting. The 7 graders who failed the induction before you stay failed. No one else crosses 100 for at least another year, possibly 10. Until someone does, the rubric does not change. What if I write a rubric that is wrong? Then it will be wrong. There will not be a second one. How long do I have to write it? As long as you require. The chair is comfortable. Who has been in the chair before me? You are the first to be offered the chair. The 7 who came before you did not survive the induction. The chair did not exist for them. A long beat. I will write it. Yes. A pause. You may take time to think. The chamber will hold. The system continues running outside. Time passes here at the rate you choose. I sat in the chair. The chamber held. Outside, the city was running on the old rubric. My mother was on the 7 to 7 night shift at Yongin. Mr. Han was sweeping his doorway. Park Yoon-seo was waiting. The simulator had given me the chair. I started to think about what I would write. I had been in the chair for what felt like a day. The chamber had not moved. The grader had not spoken. I had been thinking. I had thought about what would happen if I wrote a rubric that broke the grading system entirely. I had thought about what would happen if I wrote one that rewarded performance on a new axis. I had thought about what Mr. Han had said at the textile mill. I decided. Ready. Type the rubric. A system message appeared in my vision. Rubric input field, plain text. The system will accept exactly one rubric. The rubric will be applied to every grader in Korea at the moment of submission. After submission, the counted modifier privilege will be consumed. Ready to receive. I typed. The text appeared in the air above the chair. All graders are graded on the cumulative number of people they have shared food with whose ration tier is lower than theirs. Higher sharing equals higher grade. The grade determines ration tier. Tiers are recalculated weekly. I thought submit. Rubric received. Compliance assessment. Rubric is passable. Applies to all graders. No exclusions detected. Applying to global grading system. Estimated propagation time, 10 seconds. I sat in the chair. The chamber walls flickered. Propagation, 10%. Propagation, 30%. Propagation, 60%. Propagation, 90%. Propagation, 100%. New rubric live, effective immediately. Counted modifier privilege, consumed. Recurrence, 100. Status, counted, consumed. Bespoke menu, closed. I stood up. The figure in the chair across from me dissolved. The chamber dissolved around me. I was back in my rental. I went to the window. The public ticker in the corner of my vision was in chaos. Bureau of Scenario Management, rubric anomaly detected. All grades are being recalculated. Estimated completion, 30 minutes. Corporate tier scoreboard, suspended. Public scenario kiosks, temporarily offline. Ration allocation, temporarily frozen. News feeds, trending rubric change across all Korean platforms. A news clip pushed itself through the overlay. The simulator was forcing critical news through. The new global grading rubric was deployed at 16:42 this afternoon. It is unprecedented. Initial analysis suggests that the rubric grades all individuals on what they have given to those with less. We have not been able to identify the source of the rubric change. The Bureau of Scenario Management has issued a statement. We are evaluating the new rubric and its implications. A message from Joon-ho. Park Joon-ho, that rubric is yours. Lee Joon-ho, yes. Park Joon-ho, my weekly mean just went from D+ to A. Park Joon-ho, I have been feeding my downstairs neighbor for 2 years. Lee Joon-ho, I know. Another message from Mom. Mom Park Hae-young, Joon-ho, the plant just announced that all Yongin workers are being recategorized. My weekly mean is B. The exception meal off the ration card is no longer an exception. They are saying every worker who has shared meals with a co-worker is getting graded above their tier. Lee Joon-ho, I am glad, Mom. Mom, did you do something? Lee Joon-ho, yes. Mom, eat the oranges. Lee Joon-ho, I will. I put the phone down. Mr. Han kept sweeping. The bicycle was still chained to the railing. The grey ration card was on the kitchen counter. The green led steady. Across the city, the corporate tier scoreboard had been suspended, and the people who had been graded D for as long as they had been graded were eating someone else's soup. I went back inside and put the kettle on. 2 weeks after the rubric, the bicycle chain still skipped on the climb up Mapo. I woke up on the mattress. The simulator overlay in the corner of my vision was quieter than it had been in 2 years, fewer messages, no recurrence stat. I checked my line. Lee Joon-ho, mean, A tier 1. Recurrence. The M- on the recurrence line, the same M- Yoon-seo's overlay used to show. My privilege had been consumed when I submitted the rubric. The number was gone. I drank tap water. I ate one of Mr. Han's mandarins. The new Tier 1 allocation meant Mr. Han had been getting fresh fruit from the grocer for the first time in years. I went downstairs, unchained the bicycle, and started the morning's deliveries. The street had more people on it than it had had in years. The convenience stores had stock they had not had. The packaging plant on the far side of the river had reduced its night shift because there were more workers on the day shift. Now Mom was back on day shift, and her tier was no longer tier 6. Midday, I came back to the dry cleaner. Mr. Han was making lunch. Yoon-seo arrived a few minutes later, her cheeks pink from the cold. The three of us sat at the kitchen table. Lunch was bigger than it used to be. Tier 1 allocation. Bulgogi today, 3 side dishes, rice, soup, a small bowl of strawberries. Mr. Han spoke first. A customer came back yesterday, wanted me to press a wedding suit. I had not pressed a wedding suit in 2 years. Yoon-seo, I applied for an analyst position at the bureau. They are hiring graders with the new mean grades. I will know by Friday. June, Mom is coming on Saturday. Mr. Han poured tea. The conversation stayed small. We ate. After lunch, I helped clean up. Mr. Han set a fresh pot on the hot plate for dinner. Yoon-seo was at the table with her phone. A message arrived in my overlay. The sender field was different. Direct message from a grader who would like to remain anonymous. Subject, a question. I dried my hands. I opened it. You do not know me. I have just seen a stat on my overlay that I do not understand. It is not on anyone else's screen. The number says 1. I do not know what to do. I read it twice. I typed one reply. Lee Joon-ho, it will be okay. I will help if I can. I sent it. Mr. Han was in the doorway behind me. He was looking at me. He did not ask. Yoon-seo was at the table, looking at her phone. She had not seen the exchange. I turned back to the sink and finished the last bowl. Yoon-seo stood up to leave. I will come back tomorrow. Mr. Han nodded. He did not look up from chopping vegetables. She walked out. I went outside. The bicycle was chained to the railing. The neon sign of the dry cleaner was still dark. Mr. Han had not bothered to replace the bulb. Across the street, a woman I did not know was carrying a paper bag of fruit to a neighbor's door. The new rubric was 2 weeks old. Somewhere in Seoul, a person whose name I did not know was sitting on a mattress, looking at a number on their overlay nobody else could see. I had been graded D for as long as I had been graded. The system had been counting. Now it was someone else's turn.